This is Nightly Business Report with Tyler Matheson and Sue Herrera.
A jobs-fueled rally. Stocks flirt with record closing highs as Wall Street and Main Street cheer the April jobs report.
Just do it. President Obama pitches his global trade deal at Nike headquarters, but not without controversy.
And big twist. The man who exposed the secrets of Swiss banking went from whistleblower to prison inmate, but his tale doesn't end there. The final part of our series tonight on Nightly Business Report for Friday, May 8th.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It was the jobs report everyone was looking for. Wall Street liked it because it was strong, but not too strong. Main Street liked it because more than 220,000 jobs were created last month, while the unemployment rate fell to 5.4%, the lowest rate since 2008. The Goldilocks report sent stocks soaring, with job growth that many say was just good enough to hold off a Federal Reserve rate hike until the second half of the year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average capped the week with a gain of 267 points to 18,191. The Nasdaq rose 58, and the S&P 500 added 28 points. Hampton Pearson has more on the spring rebound in jobs.
Led by a big boost in the service sector, construction, and healthcare, the job market rebounded sharply in April. Good news for President Obama.
That's 3 million new jobs over the past 12 months, nearly the fastest pace in over a decade.
March, it turns out, was worse than previously reported, producing just 85,000 jobs. April, however, added nearly 3 times as many new workers. On Wall Street, a sigh of relief from leading economists.
I would expect something like 200,000 from here on out. So maybe a little less than this report if there was an element of snapback there.
The underlying trend growth of the economy is probably about 2.5% right now, and that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It is eating up capacity. I think we still have the slack is diminishing all over the place.
But the pace of job gains has slowed. Just 191,000 per month during the first quarter of this year, compared to 260,000 per month last year. There's little growth in workers' pay, about $25 an hour on average, up just 2.2% in the last 12 months.
So you've already applied?
At this Home Depot job fair just outside Boston, part of a nationwide effort to hire 80,000 seasonal workers, a reality check from job seekers.
I don't know. I've been looking for employment now for almost 8 weeks. You know, so I really don't know. And before, I never had a problem applying employment. You know, so I believe I don't know if it's getting better or if it's getting worse.
2 years, really hard job market to get. You know, just sometimes you'll be lucky, sometimes you won't. But it's really, really looking good that I got this job today.
The unemployment rate is now at a 7-year low, and at 5.4%, moving closer to the Fed's target for full employment with no threat from inflation. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Hampton Pearson in Washington.
So how will the Fed view today's jobs report, and what does all of that mean for the market? Eric Ristabin is Chief Investment Strategist at Russell Investments, and he joins us now. Eric, welcome back. Good to see you. How healthy really do you think the U.S. economy is? This number was a good one, but some of the other numbers that we've seen indicate that basically the first quarter was flat.
Yeah, well, actually, the first quarter was a bad economic number. We think the U.S. economy is healthy. A recession is very unlikely. This number is an indication that that's not a foolhardy thought. Really, we're expecting the U.S. economy to accelerate to kind of the 3% range in the back half of this year. And it's not great, but it's certainly better than we've had in the first quarter, better than we've had over the last several years.
Eric, do you agree with those who say that this report in particular does show strength, but not too much strength, and therefore it does still give the Fed a little bit of cover to not raise interest rates at the June meeting?
Yeah, we don't think June. We thought yesterday, September. We think September, maybe even a little bit more today. This jobs number supports probably a September move rather than a December move because it wasn't, also weak. That was something that people began to think about. September 223 actually gives you a kind of dead bang in September because wage pressure is likely to start pushing up in the United States as unemployment rate continues to fall.
Let's talk a little bit about stocks and where you see their valuations today. Are they too highly valued in the U.S.?
Well, we think they're expensive, but we're also, note that in this part of the cycle, we're late in the market cycle. Stocks usually are expensive. They tend to actually stay expensive and get even more expensive. The reason to buy stocks isn't because you think they're incredibly cheap. The reason to buy stocks is that you think the economy is going to grow, earnings are going to grow, and that's going to give you a good return in stocks, particularly when you compare them to bonds.
All right, Eric, and they got a little more expensive today, those stocks did, didn't they? Eric Ristabin with Russell Investments.
Yes, they did.
Have a great weekend.
Worldwide sales at McDonald's fell last month, but the decline was less than expected. The world's biggest hamburger chain saw weakness across most regions, with the biggest drop in the Asia-Pacific, Middle East, and Africa markets. The report comes just days after the company outlined the first part of its turnaround effort.
Today, fellow Dow component Nike backed President Obama in his push for a new global trade agreement. Speaking at Nike headquarters, President Obama pushed for his proposed Pacific trade deal. And for its part, Nike said it would help bring thousands of jobs to the U.S. Our Sarah Eisen has more now from Beaverton, Oregon.
Hello, Oregon! Many are calling it a controversial move. President Obama visiting Nike headquarters to drum up support for his Trans-Pacific trade partnership.
This deal would strengthen our hand overseas by giving us the tools to open other markets to our goods and services and make sure they play by the fair rules we help write.
Critics say Nike is a poster child for outsourcing American jobs to Asia, factories that pay low wages and often have poor working conditions.
We have a deep commitment to workers' rights, to improving conditions within our contract factories, to create a greener, more sustainable supply chain. A massive commitment from Nike. Very proud of the results.
Nike says this trade deal will actually pave the way for new jobs to be created in the United States, because it will ease the burden of high taxes Nike has to pay when it imports manufactured products back home.
With the relief that we expect within the TPP, we can use those funds to actually support innovation to drive advanced manufacturing here in the United States.
The problem, President Obama has to convince many members of his own party to help Congress pass fast-track legislation for this deal. Many Democrats point to NAFTA, a deal brokered with Mexico and Canada back in 1993 by President Bill Clinton, as harmful to American workers and wages. Criticisms Obama addressed today here at Nike.
Past trade agreements, it's true, didn't always reflect our values or didn't always do enough to protect American workers. But that's why we're designing a different kind of trade deal.
If it passes, Nike says it will invest to build a factory in the U.S. that will create at least 10,000 jobs and over 40,000 indirect jobs over 10 years. It's a drop in the bucket compared to its 1 million plus workforce overseas, but it would boost the potential for sneakers to be made in the USA.
Just do it, everybody. Thank you. God bless you.
For Nightly Business Report, I'm Sarah Eisen.
Now back to that April jobs report, where despite a lower unemployment rate, teen unemployment remains in the double digits. Summer jobs aren't as plentiful as they once were, and that can have long-term consequences for teens who have trouble making that first crucial step into the working world. Mary Thompson has more from Verizon's Operations Center in Basking Ridge, New Jersey, on a program aimed at getting high school students on the right employment track.
What types of data sets have we been studying?
Before shadowing workers at Ernst & Young, cartoons shaped 17-year-old Shazeb Rizvi's view of white-collar work.
You see people working in cubicles, and they're wearing a white shirt, a black tie, and they look stressed out about work.
Instead, at the accounting firm, Rizvi saw engaged and enthusiastic workers, changing his mind about the kind of job he wants.
A job in the corporate world, a nice paying job with friendly people, a job you like.
Rizvi is a junior at Brooklyn's James Madison High. He's part of a program designed by the National Academy Foundation, or NAF, a public-private partnership connecting businesses and public schools. NAF President J.D. Hoy says the program's aim is to show students how classrooms connect to a working world the teens may not know exist. It's done through special lessons, shadowing sessions, and internships.
For us, it is really the ultimate experience that makes education make sense.
This summer, some of the more than 50 NAF interns will work here at the Verizon's Operations Center, applying what they learned in math and science classes to some of these products. They'll test a phone's durability in the company's tumbler and monitor the network's quality in its audio booth. Experiences Verizon's Nikki Palmer hopes may turn them on to a future in a field that's desperately in need of talent.
We can get students at the age where, they're still thinking, well, maybe I want to be an engineer or maybe I don't.
And even if they learn they don't want to be an engineer, the teens get the critical skills a first job provides.
I learned time management skills. I learned to be open with people.
James Madison senior Michael Kreitzer learned this at Verizon last summer, where he also managed inventory on Excel files he created. Lessons professor Alicia Modestino says translate into lifelong benefits for any teen who lands a summer job.
We've actually seen some surveys that have shown that teens who don't have those soft skills or haven't been used to having good work habits typically have a more difficult time getting a job later on.
Putting teens to work, one way to better our workforce. From Basking Ridge, New Jersey, I'm Mary Thompson for Nightly Business Report.
Still ahead, the UBS whistleblower who went to prison only to receive life-changing news when he got out. The final part of our series is next. As we reported, investors cheered today's jobs report, but what should they do with their money in today's market? Our Market Monitor guest has some ideas. He's Mark Yusko, Chief Investment Officer and CEO at Morgan Creek Capital Management. He manages about $4 billion. Mark, welcome. Good to have you with us. We could spend a lot of time talking about whether you think the Fed's going to raise rates in June or July or September or never, but I'm bored with that. I'm bored with that. Yep. I want to get right to your stock picks. Your first one is an airline. Why?
Yeah, well, I think the common misperception is that the airline business is a bad business. And, for 30 years, that was true. It was a terrible business. They lost money as an industry for 30 years, up until about 3 years ago when consolidation put a lot of pricing power back in the hands of the airline. So we think it's a fantastic business. We think American in particular is very undervalued and has a lot of upside. And I think people really don't appreciate how much fuel savings they have with these lower oil prices. So we think there's significant upside in the airlines broadly and American in particular.
And you also like Apple. A lot of people on the street like Apple, but they think that perhaps near term it's a little expensive. You disagree with that? Yeah,
look, I think Apple is cheap. I don't know how you could call Apple expensive with a PE ratio kind of sub 15 compared, it's actually below the market. And, when we look at the company, it's dominant. You walk through an airport or a mall, everybody's got an iPhone or an iPad. They're looking at an Apple screen. They dominate their segment. They made more money last quarter, in one quarter, than the bottom 400 companies in the S&P in the last 5 years. They're just a dominant company. So we agree with Carl Icahn that this company is worth more than $200.
And your third choice is one whose stock has had good days and not so good days lately, kind of a little more flattish certainly than Apple, and that would be Google.
Yep. So, I think Google's an example of a coiled spring. Again, a company that just dominates what they do, and they've got a lot of embedded options, shall we say, inside the company that we think will be realized in the coming years. So we think technology broadly is the place you want to invest. We think it's more defensive in a time where they may or may not raise rates. And if they do, we think technology is defensive.
Quickly, Mark, why has Google not felt the love?
Well, they ran very hard, kind of the previous 12 months. And I think, stocks are cyclical and they kind of go in fits and starts. And it needed a pause that refreshed, and now it's ready to run again.
All right, Mark, thanks very much. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Mark
Thanks for having me.
Morgan Creek Capital Management.
Shares of AOL spike on an earnings beat, and that is where we begin tonight's market focus. The company's quarterlies were better than expected, with revenue well above forecasts. CEO Tim Armstrong says the positive results were driven primarily by advertising.
The strength that you see in these numbers are essentially our ability to grow very strong sets of supply across mobile, video, programmatic, and second of all, you're seeing ad pricing going up. We're doing a very good job navigating, the platform shift in advertising from offline to online, and that's really great.
And the shares responded, popping up 10% to 43.42. The agrochemicals company Syngenta rejected a $45 billion takeover offer from Monsanto. Syngenta says the bid undervalues its company and did not take fully into account regulatory risks. Monsanto was up more than 1% to $120.79. Syngenta surged 11% to close at $85.75.
Well, Sue Temper Sealy's shareholders have voted to remove the company's CEO and two members of its board, its chairman as well. They're going to need a good mattress tonight. This is the company has been a target of an activist investor pressuring it to improve performance. Shares there were 3% higher on this news at $62 a share. Investors had a strong appetite for the fast casual chain Bojangles in its trading debut. The joint, which specializes in chicken and biscuits, sounds really good, offered almost 8 million shares priced at $19 apiece. Shares soared to $23.75, an increase of 25% on the day at Bojangles.
The Department of Justice is reportedly pushing to reach settlements with 5 banks over currency rigging that will include guilty pleas. As first reported by Bloomberg, those settlements could come mid-next week and will include 5 banks, one more than previously reported. The 5th bank is UBS, based in Switzerland. The others include Citi, JP Morgan, Barclays, and the Royal Bank of Scotland.
Bradley Birkenfeld went from Swiss banker to the uber-wealthy to whistleblower to prison inmate. But his tale didn't end there. There's one more big twist, as Eamon Javers explains in the final chapter of his whistleblower series.
After serving 2.5 years in prison for his role as a Swiss banker hiding millions of dollars for wealthy American clients, Bradley Birkenfeld moved into a small rental home in New Hampshire with no immediate plans for the future. About a month later, he got some life-changing news.
My attorneys informed me that the IRS whistleblowing office was going to grant me a very large award.
For $104 million.
Yeah. Well, actually, they had taken taxes off the top.
You got to pay your taxes.
I paid my taxes.
You learned that.
Probably the largest taxpayer around, yes. Well, we'll look forward.
He also became the highest-paid whistleblower in U.S. history.
It was vindication. And what made me even more happy was it vindicated me against the Department of Justice.
You don't think they were happy to write you that check?
Oh, they're pissed. And I'm pleased.
But Birkenfeld's still angry. He's on a quest, he said, to force the Justice Department to explain why it was so aggressive in prosecuting him, but let nearly everyone else involved in the scam get off with light penalties or none at all.
The DOJ is aiding and abetting a crime. These people have not been indicted. Why?
That's tough stuff to say the DOJ is aiding and abetting a crime.
Put me in front of the Senate, I'll raise my right hand and tell you again.
In a statement, the Department of Justice said the department continues to work with the Internal Revenue Service and other domestic and international law enforcement partners to aggressively pursue those who assist U.S. taxpayers in offshore tax evasion and to identify the individuals who have evaded their federal tax obligations. So far, the IRS has collected as much as $7 billion from Americans with secret offshore accounts, and that number continues to grow. Since Birkenfeld helped put that ball in motion, his lawyers say he deserves a cut of all that money. How much do you think you're entitled to?
Honestly, you'd have to check with my attorneys. I have no idea.
Should you get $1 billion?
Again, you'd have to talk to my lawyers on that.
$2 billion?
Talk to my lawyers.
So you got yourself a new car. He is having some fun with the multi-millions he's already collected, including 2 Porsches.
I love this license plate.
Well, this is pay homage to my old employer, UBS.
That's UBS's marketing slogan on your car.
On my car.
And his own Boston Bruins luxury box, to which he invites local police officers, charitable organizations, and friends.
Department of Justice guys don't come up here?
No, they don't come up here. We wouldn't invite them up here, no.
He's still seething over the fact that the government has allowed 50,000 Americans to admit they broke the law, but remain safely anonymous by simply paying penalties and fees.
It bothers me now that you think you can buy your way out of a situation, and that means that our government is for sale.
So part of it is, you know, you're doing this on the merits, but part of it is that, you know, you like to fight.
Oh, I'm a hammer looking for nails.
You're a hammer looking for nails.
Chainsaw looking for trees.
It appears Birkenfeld's battle is just beginning.
And Tyler and Sue, Bradley Birkenfeld will finally be done with the federal prison system in November when he gets off federal probation, and then he can really begin the beginning of the rest of his life, guys.
And I have a funny feeling you're going to keep up with him too, Eamon. What's he
character.
going to do now?
Well, you know, he told me he wants to move to Germany ultimately. He loved living in Europe. He'd like to go back there. Not so sure what his reception will be in Switzerland, though, because his whistleblowing disrupted an entire industry, an entire way of life, really, in Switzerland among those secret bankers.
What has happened in terms of banking secrecy? Is it all over?
It is ending. A lot of the experts we talked to in putting together this series said that after Birkenfeld, we saw the UBS settlement, we saw Credit Suisse settle, we saw a number of other smaller Swiss banks targeted by the Department of Justice, and then we saw a new law called FATCA come in 2010. That's going to force a lot of banks around the world with American clients to disclose their American clientele to the United States, and the experts tell us that might be the beginning of the end of global bank secrecy. If you want to keep your money safe now and secret from the U.S. government around the world, you're going to have to go to riskier and riskier jurisdictions to do it.
Wow, Eamon, terrific series. Really enjoyed it. Eamon Javers in Washington.
And folks, to read more about the UBS whistleblower case, head to our website, nbr.com.
Coming up, meet the teen entrepreneur who helps run a multi-million-dollar company after school with a little help from mom. Here's a look at what to watch next week. Dow component Cisco is out with earnings. On the data front, we'll get retail sales and the producer price index. And Euro finance ministers meet to discuss Greece's debt. And that's what's on the agenda for next week.
A story about a mom who starts a company with her two daughters is pretty good to begin with. But there's so much more to it than that. Only 26 of the Fortune 500 CEOs are women right now. But that's 14 more than there were when they got their bright idea, but not enough to keep them from asking why there aren't more.
Lily Sandler looks like a high school junior. But when was the last time you heard a 17-year-old say things like,
as we transition to mass retail,
and
the motive of this company is to prove that women can do everything that men can do.
Lily, sister Melanie, and their mother Renee Sandler have a company, Blamtastic. They might sell $10 million worth of skincare and beauty products this year alone. It started after Renee Sandler read a 2007 Wall Street Journal article that said that at that time, only 12 Fortune 500 CEOs were women.
When I read that number, something snapped. I certainly thought about, are they going to be limited when they go out into the workforce?
So Renee challenged her daughters, then just 9 and 10 years old, to start their own company. Little did she know, a slip of the tongue would put them all in business.
I was looking for my lip balm one day, and I said, Mom, where's my lip blam?
And I said, Blam? I said, that would make a great name for a lip balm company.
They wanted to make a lip balm, bright flavors, sun protection, all natural ingredients.
It's mainly consists of aloe and beeswax.
Renee Sandler, a paralegal, had never run a business before, but suddenly she and her daughters were cooking up batches of lip balm, or Blam, in their kitchen.
We ruined every pan in our house.
Neighbors helped them tweak taste and texture, even suggesting they sell the stuff, which they did. First at a schoolyard sale, and then at a mall kiosk. The advertising was homemade, too.
Now, the only thing better than guinea pigs is Blamtastic.
Soon they were going to trade shows. Retailers began to order. That meant they needed to find a real manufacturer.
They said no to us when we first pursued them. And I found out that the CEO of that company was a woman. And I called her And I said, listen, I'm really trying to set an example of empowerment for my daughters. I'm trying to teach them to do it through business. And she said, okay.
It's more than lip balm now. They've got multiple manufacturers making a line of 25 different products. Lily is an intern at her own company, earning high school credit and a few other perks, juggling homework with speaking engagements.
We really need to start looking up to female role models.
Lily and Renee have identified with the Always brand's popular Like a Girl campaign. It aims to change the way people think when they refer to doing anything like a girl.
Insulted girls, but not my sister.
Every girl, whatever their dream is, and in Lily's case, it's being an entrepreneur. Every girl can make her dream happen. I think Lily is showing us proudly what she does like a girl.
I'm hoping that we can change what that means, that it can be a compliment or a good thing to do something like a girl.
A lesson well learned, thanks to Mom.
I'm ever grateful and in debt to my mom for doing that, because she knew that we were going to have to face it eventually, and I'm glad that we were exposed to it at a young age.
Not a bad way to head into Mother's Day weekend. In case you're wondering, Lily Sandler is indeed planning to go to college once she graduates from high school next year. She's hoping to keep on juggling and stay connected, though, to the family business while she's studying, and I would suggest she do just that.
Absolutely. I'm
Wow.
going to have my daughters, Jackie and Vicky, watch
that. That's really cool, right?
Absolutely. I think it's fantastic.
Hey, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
All right, have
And
a great
to
one.
Joanne, too.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right.
And to all of you.
Absolutely. That does it for Nightly Business Report for tonight. I'm awful klipped. I'm Sue Herrera. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Tyler Matheson. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.